Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. Your host here, Matt Zahab. We are buzzing as always. Guys, market is tough right now. We're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep building. Don't look at the price. Don't look at your net worth get absolutely obliterated. If you guys have been in this for a couple cycles, you know what happens. It always goes back up, and it will go back up. So keep battling. Don't look at the red on the board. Go touch some grass or snow if you're like me in Toronto. And, keep on staying happy, healthy, and wealthy. Time for the intro. Today we have Chris Ian on the show today, CEO and co-founder of Plume Network, the first permissionless full-stack blockchain built for real-world asset finance, RWAfi. He spearheads the team shaping the infra and policy standards to accelerate the development of on-chain capital markets. Accomplished track record for Chris as a founder and investor in enterprise software space with tenures at Scale Venture Partners, Rainforest QA, and Xpenser, which was acquired by Coupa, IPO 2016. Chris, absolutely pumped to have you on, my friend. How you doing this lovely evening?
Good. Despite the fact that every time I look at my phone, it's all red and and things couldn't feel worse. At the same time, the world couldn't be better for crypto. It's one of those strange feelings where things are going incredibly well. Everything we thought was going to happen is happening, except the thing that matters, which is the price going up. But policy wise, adoption wise, technology wise, all these things are going crazy. I mean, even Zcash been ripping. I mean, like the sort of unthinkable's been happening. So it's all positive except for our financial status, but it's all good. I think again, if you zoom out a little bit, which is not even that long, zoom out even the tiniest bit, I mean, this is an insane sort of up only time for crypto. And so, yeah, very excited to be here, excited to chat about all this stuff and get into it. Thanks for having me.
I love it. Pumped to have you. Again, we don't do this too often, but because of the current, sort of price shit show that we're in right now, just overall market, we never get into price predictions on the show. We have US equities, worldwide equities getting absolutely tanked. We had up only AI, energy, metals for literally the last couple of months, if not years. And a couple of my big holdings like the core weaves, which have literally just printed money, are getting decimated as we speak. Do you think this is a full-on correction for both crypto and TradFi assets? Is this just a couple-month bear market, long-term bear market? Again, no price action, just overall sentiment. As a builder who's been in the space for a while, how do you feel right now about everything?
I think, look, I'll maybe the big asterisk is, as a builder, I'm a relentless optimist for everything. And,
I like that.
Much to the negative to my bags, but I'm hopeful for anything, and I'm very positive about where we're going in totality. I think if you look a little bit under the hood, price is incredibly short term, and is incredibly short term stuff. If you look at anything happening right now, it just couldn't be more positive, and so I'm incredibly bullish on what's going on. I think, for the world, it's a bit of a tenuous time, right? And that's why, you mentioned, AI and metals and things outside of crypto, right? Nosediving, right? And just kind of going to shit. And that's a reflection of where things are around the world right now. We've got all kinds of nonsense happening, right? With, sort of macro stuff with the financial markets, geopolitically, it's a little bit tricky. There's a lot of things happening right now, but, no doubt that at the end of the day, all of these things are coming in the right direction. And so, I think that we are right around the corner from getting out of this, right? It's, admittedly, it's been longer than I would have expected, and, I sort of was, I thought kind of Q3 post rate cuts, and not quite immediately, but near the end of the year we'd get a nice blow off top. Did not happen, right? But of course, as with everything in crypto, you plan for one thing, and then you have something like 1010 come into play and just absolutely decimate everything and completely change the course of where we're going. But that's, candidly, you can't have good ups without good downs, and so that's just the game that we're playing, and that's what keeps it fun and interesting, right? If we all just wanted something more stable, we would just, the T-bill is perfectly fine for that, just, kind of inch up at 3-4-5% a year and be fine. But, again, we're here for not only the financial gains, but for a good time and all these things. And this is just the nature of the game. And so I'm still, I cannot see a world in which we're not going up, in the midterm. But, again, I've been surprised before, and hopefully we'll be surprised again, but this time to the opposite side.
Well said. It's part of the process, guys. Joel Embiid, Philadelphia 76ers, he's always said it. It's part of the process, and we are still in the process, gents and ladies. Okay. Speaking of fun stuff in 2026, before we get into Plume, RWAs popping off. I'm a big Hyperliquid guy. I love Hyperliquid. I think that's one of the sort of greatest sort of, booms into RWAs over the last month, with just, okay, let's find product market fit in crypto. Metals go parabolic. What's the best place to trade metals in crypto? It's hyperliquid. Hyperliquid had insane
Without a
volume.
doubt.
Still has insane volume. This is literally just the tip of the iceberg. We have incredible teams like Chris's and Plume, where we are just, guys, for everyone who trades in crypto and then goes back to TradFi, it's pulling teeth every single time. For all the TradFi listeners, the brokers listening, I love you guys. I'm sorry, but it is absolutely absurd. I'm Canadian. I still get hosed on, $5, $10 trades when I trade with TD, the second biggest bank in Canada. Like, what are we doing? It should all be on chain. It's way more efficient. It's just better. Let's jump right into RWAs. Before we get into Plume, Chris, why are you so bullish on RWAs in 2026?
Totally. I think it's a bunch of things coming together, but to keep it very, very simple, look, at the end of the day, what we need from crypto to grow, right? Everybody wants to do one very simple thing. We want our bags to grow.
Yeah.
It's not even like, let's not pretend it's anything more than that, right?
Same as TradFi. Same as TradFi.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think we should wear that badge proudly because we're just humans. At the end of the day, everyone is just, that's not a crypto comment. That's just a human being question, right? And so, like, this is the path that we've chosen for that. But if that's the game, right? Like, it's very clear. The one thing that helps any market grow is adoption. It's really no more. It's not a question that goes any deeper than that. And the institutional adoption, the additional bags that are coming in, and the additional users and holders and real money coming in, that's what changes markets, right? If you look at the trad markets or look at any market throughout the history of time, right? Retail users sort of lead the way and bring in adoption in the beginning, right? Things get regulated, which is a pain in the ass and sucks. Like, I deal with it all day. It's one of the worst things that I've ever had to deal with. I got a crypto to get away from that nonsense, and I'm right back in it, right? But here we are. Someone's got to do it. And the point is, though, when we make it to the other side, right? These things unlock tremendous inflows, right, into the market. The reason why equities are incredible, right, is because of things like in the 401k and all these things that happen that sort of aggregate tremendous amounts of money into these flows, and that creates an incredible positive momentum for the whole world, right? Because on both sides, then the builders and people that need capital are able to access it much, much more efficiently, right, and in much more higher quantities, and then people all around the world, right, can get access to these things, right, and have exposure, right? So it's just an incredibly positive force that creates value for everybody like that, right? And this is one of those things that unlocks it for the crypto user, right? It brings the money into crypto, takes the technology that we have here, blockchains, permissionless, right, internet capital, all the capital markets, all these things unlock in incredible ways and will expand and exponentiate. We are not even in the first inning for this thing. If we look at the user base for crypto, it's like, look, we can talk about fake numbers all day, which I do too, right? So I'm not above it, right? But like, the reality is, it's still very, very small. Right, we are sub any meaningful skill from a user perspective and a TVL perspective and a real adoption perspective, and we're already seeing incredible value from that. So we just get to not even the same size as TradFi. Forget that. I think we go much bigger than that. But forgetting that, even if we go to 10, 15, 20%, it's a blow off top of where we are today, right? Yeah. And so, that's why I'm incredibly positive where we're going. I think we need it, right? Because we need more usage, more people, more dollars, right? And more assets with deeper pools of liquidity, right? Yeah. So I just think there's a lot that's happening on this thing. It's going to be positive for all of us. And I think more importantly, if we don't take a part of this is happening whether we like it or not. It's a runaway train, right? Larry Fink's been talking about it for all year, right? Every major country, financial institution, and company is doing stuff in tokenization, in RWAs, in stablecoins. It's all happening in front of us. If we are not part of that process, we risk replicating the same bullshit that is here today on chain, right? I think we have to be part of it. We have to take control. We have ball control right now because we know how to play this game. We know what's going on here, and by engaging in a more honest way, right, with them, and in a more meaningful way, rather than just reluctantly trying to deal with them, right, or letting whatever fly, right, and just be, well, they're going to bring money, let's just do whatever. If we just try and actually work with them to help shape what this is, man, it's going to be positive with us in the driver's seat still. If we don't, right, it'll be the same shit on chain, which is like, it'll be margin better for sure, just because it's on chain, but we'll have missed a massive opportunity. So I just think the upside is insane here.
Very well said. Let's get into Plume here. You guys are one of the leaders in the RWA space, and we have so much to talk about. Just like you said, Chris, you've been dealing with the shit shows of regulatory developments and the policy and the whole 9 yards. I mean, regulators and policymakers in different jurisdictions, USA, Hong Kong, Bermuda, UAE, you name it. It's all over the place. I mean, there's not a whole
Yep.
lot going on in Canada. So again, that's why we don't have many Canadians on the show. It's just sort of, it's funny. We're always, almost always the leaders for a lot of tech, literally the first one on base. And then we fumble the bag every time and don't get home. Like Ethereum, Vitalik, Canadian,
I was gonna say,
CZ.
like, people
Yeah.
underestimate Canada as a place for just insane crypto talents, and so much has actually come out of there. We hire a lot of Canadians, because just like like you said, Toronto, like Italians, you have all these people like building the foundations of crypto that come from Canada, and like you said, you guys just like let them leave and go elsewhere. Like they do whatever else. But like, I'm from the U.S., right? We fuck it up too. So don't get me wrong. So,
Well
but
said.
yeah.
Well said. So Plume, give me the elevator pitch on Plume, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yep. Very, very quickly. The TLDR is very simple. We build a network and ecosystem and a blockchain, right, focused on making it easy to access reward assets, right? The point of our story is, we think that the crypto native is the user of the future, right? And is the primary user that the world should care about, right? It's a 24/7 global market, right? It's a user base all over the world, right? We've seen this already. The velocity of capital, the velocity of users, the velocity of innovation when it comes this type of user base, when it's open and permissionless and 24/7, is unparalleled, right? We've done in 4 to 5 years in DeFi what the traditional markets took over 100 years to do. Right now, we're not in the same place. There's still a lot to go. Right, we've not caught up. But just to say, when things are open and things can happen just sort of organically from the streets, right? The way the internet took off, right? It's an open permissionless protocol. Things go nuclear, right? And
Yep.
in 10, 20 years, the internet's the internet's completely warped how we do everything. Right. And this exact thing is happening to value and money around the world right now with crypto. Right. And so, what we do is we believe that this user base and this philosophy, right, around how to build capital markets and how to build in finance is a core idea here. And we're building around that. So we build tools and products and services that sort of make it easy for the crypto native to interact with RWAs and reward assets. Right. And it's, our perspective, it's not RWAs versus crypto. Right. To me, they're all the same thing. At the end of the day, these are assets people want to get hold of, right?
Yeah.
And when the things are going nuclear, right, which I don't remember what that's like anymore, but at some point they did, right? When things go nuclear, right, you want to hold shitters, you want to be trenching, you want to I don't think we should reject that. I think that's part of the whole game, and that's part of the beauty of it, right? And we look, the traditional markets have shitters too. They're called pink sheets, right? And even in the majors, right, we have plenty of shitters, in the sort of cloud, I think SPACs and many things, like a lot of them are trash. Let's just be super clear about it, right? And so that's just the game that we're playing. And so you have both sides, and just increasing access for both sides, for the crypto native to get access to other things that are sort of a counterweight to pure BTC beta, right? Which is kind of what it all is right now. And also for the TradFi to get access to crypto markets, right? Both these things are incredibly important ideas. And so, we believe that, I think, leading with the crypto native user allows these things to take shape in a much, much more coherent way. And I think this is honestly, it's more who we are at the end of the day, right? So that's part of it. But I do think if you look at history, new technologies are adopted by the fringe, right? The Chris Dixon post, which is what people, it's sort of like the toys, tomorrow's like sort of infrastructure are just toys today, right? And
Yeah.
they seem weird, and they seem weird, right? And sort of like the other post is like what the nerds are, what people are doing on the weekends are going to be what you do for work in the future, right? And that's sort of the history of sort of technology. If you look at the internet, if you look at mobile, right, every single one of those things upended the historical thing. You have an analogy to it, but the new thing takes advantage of the technology, right, in a native way, and transforms it. So it rhymes. It's never the exact same thing, right? If you look at mobile as an example, right, the thing that made mobile great was not porting over the New York Times or Bank of America or TV or whatever and putting on the phone, right? That's part of it. The thing that made mobile great was things that took advantage of the phone. Right?
Yeah.
You had a 24/7 network of people doing things all day, right? You had an accelerometer. You could use location natively in these applications.
Yeah.
So something like Uber, right, took hold, because now instead of having to build a fleet, you'd have people coordinating on this thing, and you had location real time. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was something that couldn't be done before. Right. So we had a taxi service. Great. I could call a taxi on the web before anyway. But I had Google Maps before. It was used in a completely different way on the phone. Right. And that transformed the markets and transformed the world and just put things forward in an insane way. And that same thing is happening for crypto. where we are taking the core primitives of crypto and the core principles of crypto, which is permissionless, right?
Yep.
It's liquid, it's composable, and
Yep.
24/7 global. That is embedded and transforming these assets. And so instead of having to engage in assets, right, where you're bound to a 8 to 5, right, and like you said, ridiculous fees, tons of middlemen, right, close on the weekends, all kinds of nonsense, right? Now transforming that into what it is today, which is the minute something happens in the world, someone throws up 50 shitters, right?
Yeah.
And you can speculate and utilize, and not to say that's the only way to express that idea, but that idea that allows you to just engage in the markets instantly for what's happening, right?
100%.
And move money at the pace of the world, at the pace the world is moving. That is an incredibly powerful idea. And by doing this in the way crypto's already adopted, that is going to transform the entire world, right? And so that's why I was so bullish on RWAs and what we're doing here, and why our perspective is, there's a lot of assets today in RWAs. Like, I think if you look at RWAs today, everyone's bullish on talk about it. Great. Like, the truth is, who the fuck actually holds and uses RWAs? Very, very few people, right?
Yep.
Before this metals boom, right?
Yep.
And even then, we're talking about perps, right? I think people holding spot is very, 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 very small still, right? But like, you look at that, you look at BITL, the biggest fund out there, right?
Yep.
In RWAs today, which is the money market fund. It's got what, 3 billion in TVL, right? It's good, but that's nothing.
But that's
right?
that's absolutely zero. That's peanuts. Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything, right? And if you look
Yeah.
at the holder base today, right, that holder base has about 100 wallets, is my understanding, right? If you look at RWXYZ, right? And we all know in crypto, 100 wallets is like 6 users, right?
Wow. I thought it'd be more than that.
It's not, because the thing is, the question is, how would you get access to BITL today, right? Like, do you hold BITL? It's
No.
almost certainly no. I don't either. I never even tried, right? Because
No,
the way
neither
to
I.
do this is just like any trad asset.
Yeah.
You have to do a bunch of fucking paperwork.
Yeah.
You're probably hitting a fax machine, God forbid, at some point, right?
Yeah.
And doing all kinds of nonsense and KYCing. The minimums are 100K, right? Your withdrawal windows for a T-bill product are quarterly.
Accredited investor, the whole 9
Yeah.
yards. It's a shit show. Yeah.
It's like, the experience just sucks, like, I'm not doing that shit. There's no
Yeah.
fucking way you're going to get me to sign up for this now, even if it's better. Like, I'm just don't have the intention to do it. Like, crypto's
Yeah.
fried my brain. I cannot do anything for more than 10 seconds at a time. And so, like, that alone is a huge barrier to anyone doing anything. And so when you look at that, our perspective is, when you make things crypto, which is liquid, permissionless, composable, the difference is astounding, right? Look
Yeah.
at the stablecoin, which is liquid, permissionless, and composable. Look at Tether, right? Look at USDC. Look at Athena, even, right? These things are just, I hold all three of those things,
Yeah.
and it's very easy for me to get access anytime, in and out, to use them in different ways, right? And the utility grows every day for them. So there's no reason not to hold them, right? And we look at those, the TVL across those is not even remotely close. Like, like Athena went to what? Athena around 2 years, they went to 15B, right?
Yeah.
In a very short period of time, they corrected back down to 6, 7. It's still better than anything else out there, right?
Yeah.
The stablecoin grows at insane rates. And so that, to me, is the view here. When it's not only philosophically better for crypto, because it puts us in the driver's seat and it gives us ball control over where the future is going, right? But number two, it actually works better. Like, just provably by these numbers and the stats, right? 2 billion in TVL with 100 wallets, or really 10 users, is nowhere near the adoption Athena has, which
Yeah.
is 15B, at peak TVL. Today it's what, 6, 7-ish, right? With hundreds of thousands of holders, right?
Yeah.
The one is clearly better than the other. And so if we just look at the historical examples, it's very clear that the crypto native path is the way forward. Now, the problem in RWAs is all people dealing in RWAs are trad people for the most part, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
crypto native, like, man, dealing with these regulators and like dealing with fucking compliance, it just sucks, So might as well spin out some fucking some LST, or do something else that's like that feels more crypto. You can get moving. It feels like things that we do, and not suffer through all this nonsense. But if we do it right and make these assets feel like crypto, it's provably true that the experience and doing the UX right will bring a tremendous amount of flows into that, right? And people want it. I mean, like you said, when you look at Hyperliquid, right, they've done an amazing job with HIP3, right? And bringing in Trade.xyz and all these things up there. So now you can trade perps on these assets, and people clearly want it, right? At the end of the day, the thing that people want here is, people are looking for alpha. Going back to the same statement, we're here to make money, right? And
But also
having a good time while we're doing it.
And that was a great rip, Chris. And on top of that, people want the most efficient way to make money as well. right?
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
like
exactly.
in that's a present day. Why do stocks still dominate off chain? Well, no shit. As a Canadian, I can go into any of the big five banking accounts, boom, right away. Or Wealthsimple, our version of Robinhood. If you're in the States, there's probably no better way to buy stocks than on Robinhood. If you're anywhere
Yep.
else in the world, it's probably Interactive Brokers, right? There's always the easiest way to do something. Going back to your Uber statement, I'm gonna call an Uber or a Lyft 100 times out of 100. I don't remember the last time I've gotten a cab unless there was one literally just magically out front of me in the perfect time. And even then, he's probably going to scam me or friggin' swipe my credit card. If you provide a better solution at a better price, barring some crazy long-term relationship, no one's going to use that old shitty solution. They're going to use the new
Yep.
thing, and it's better on
Yep.
crypto. Quick, we got to take a quick break. Give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. When we get back, we're going to keep buzzing. Huge shout out PrimeXPT, longtime friends, longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at PrimeXPT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. PrimeXPT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50. That's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Chris. Okay. One of the things you guys do that I absolutely love is looping. Looping, I'll let you explain this because you're definitely better at explaining this than I am. But it's really just taking assets that are already in, whether it's a vault, whether it's a chain, you name it, and utilizing all of the yield opportunities possible in a very, very safe way to maximize earning potential. It's sort of like giving it to a money manager, except on chain, minus, the 2 and 20 and them bending you over and rinsing you on fees. That's sort of my explanation of it. I'll give it to you. Explain what looping is and how exactly you guys do it.
Sentiment wise, you're exactly right. That's what this is, right? What we're trying to do with looping and what looping is it's been popularized, right? When we talked about DeFi historically, it's been a million things, but it's really centered around this one use case because what people want. It fixates us on this idea. What we're doing here is chasing yield, right? And looping allows us to maximize the utility of the capital to achieve the best APY and achieve the best yield, right? And it creates an ecosystem on both sides where the user, right, can now take an asset, borrow against it, right,
Yeah.
and then buy more of that same asset, right, and continually do that loop over and over and over. So you end up doing one loop, you do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and now you can really take your APY up a tremendous amount.
Well, I got to jump in. Whenever someone talks about looping, I literally think of the banks. Guys, when you give the banks money, they literally loop your shit and then keep all the money, and then they give you 1% back. But so think about what the banks do, where they lend it to capital markets, they lend it to whatever the case may be, T-bills, you name it, fees, the whole 9 yards. They literally loop your money and keep all of it. Whereas in crypto, it's the opposite. Maybe Chris and the team are taking a very small percentage, as they should and as they deserve, but it's literally the bank's bending you over, except the exact opposite. You are now bending the other person over. That's pretty much it.
Exactly. That's right. And just like you said, right, where historically, the banks, again, the margin on this is ridiculous. You give them money and they'll be making 10, 20% on this thing, after everything is said and done. And you're getting, what, 2, 3 max?
If you're lucky.
Probably more like max, right? I mean, you're talking, like you said, I think 50 bips, 1% more. So it's ridiculous. So you're losing 10, 20% of the spread right there, right? Whereas in crypto, like just because the middleman is entirely gone, it's efficient, it's on chain, and people compete away the nonsense. You're looking at, the average fees are mostly zero today, right? But if you have to do it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1%. But you're keeping the money for the user. And that's why when we talk about looping, it's beneficial for both sides. It's mostly talked about from a user perspective, meaning I can juice my APYs, right? Because I'm looping, I'm engaging in leverage in order to scale up, right, my dollar. So instead of buying the asset for $1, I can effectively buy $10 worth of that asset for the same dollar. Right. That's like sort of basically what this is. On the other side, the thing that also helps us as fast is the people that are supplying the capital. Right. Just like you said, whereas you give the money, like they're also able to maximize their utility for the money. So instead of just sitting there doing nothing, you're lending it out to multiple who want to do different things. You're making fees on that and you're able to sort of profit from that in its own ways. And so that's the ecosystem we're building around looping. Right. And the reason it's incredibly important is it's more efficiency for all sides of the equation, right? Again, the people that want the capital, right, to build or do whatever they need to do or to take out loans, whatever, are able to do it, right? The people that want yield, right, can also contribute, right? And the people that want to supply these liquidity in these markets to then loop against can also make money, right? And so it's just the best way to do things right now. Now, that being said, it's also incredibly inefficient, to do this, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of new novel ways that people are looping, but this core idea around efficiency in capital formation, right, and efficiency in API, efficiency in using capital it's clearly an idea that's going to stay, right? And as really is one of the few places the product market fit for crypto.
100%. Solana, you guys launched Nest Vault on Solana. Again, vaults, I love vaults. Vaults are sort of like just looping vaults, if you will. It's sort of like if you imagined a crypto vault, it's this imaginary vault that just, you put your shit in it and you let people like Chris and their teams make more money for you. Sort of, that's really what it is. But why Solana? Launch the testnet the Nest Vault on Solana. I'm a big Solana guy. I get it. I'd love to hear your 2 cents though, Chris. Why Solana of all the chains you could have chose?
Totally. Look, vaults, like you said, are very simple. Vaults are a way to encapsulate a bunch of features and a bunch of ideas into a single interface where I'm just taking some stable coins or whatever and depositing into this thing. And then all the things happen on the scenes, right? So very much like a stable coin, right? You deposit them into a stable coin and they do something with it, right? In the stable coin, they only do one thing. They buy treasuries. They should be. Right. But it could be many other things. But Athena is the base tripler, but you're taking complex set of actions, reducing it into a simple interaction. And going back to, I think, the user experience, right? Like you said, the reason Robin is dominant is you swipe to trade. It's very, very easy, right? And I think the user experience stuff matters a tremendous amount more than people realize. And so vaults are a way to encapsulate hard ideas into simple things, right? Now, why Solana for these things is, look, at the end of the day, like, Plume, people often ask this because we are a blockchain ourselves. We have our own chain, an EVM chain, right? We built our own ecosystem. We've got a network. We've got hundreds of applications building on Plume, and we work with them today. Why go to another chain at the same time, right? And it goes back to the core idea behind Plume. We started Plume with a very simple idea. We want to grow crypto, right? It was not about RWAs. It's not about Plume. It's about growing all of crypto. We're crypto natives, and we're sort of like, my life and everything we do is on chain. Right. And so growing that ecosystem purely from a selfish perspective was part of it. Right. More things to do, more ways to make money, and just bringing the world on chain. Right. Now, if that's the case, then growing all of crypto is more important than growing Plume. Right. And if we grow all of crypto, then Plume will grow as a result. Right. And so I think it's always a push and pull. Right. I think the thing with other blockchains and with blockchains in general is you're very beholden to your own world. Right. And it's, again, thinking about it from your perspective versus the user's perspective. We started Plume with the same thing, right? We've talked about user experience 100 times on this podcast already, right? Because user experience to me is everything, right? At the end of the day, the thing that matters is, do people want to use these products? Right. And so and if you think about it from that view, they don't give a fuck about a blockchain, right? They don't give a fuck about where this thing is. They want to know, how can I get the best access to this thing? Right. And so we have built our own great community. We have, we're one of the largest chains out there from RWA's perspective. Right. And so God bless, it's all good. Doesn't mean everyone's going to come to Plume. Right. And if our goal is to grow crypto, not grow Plume, most people are just trying to grow their own thing, not crypto. Right. If you're trying to grow all crypto, you got to go to where the users are. And a lot of users happen to be on Solana, and they're going to stay there. And there's no reason I should try and bring them to Plume. Like, I would love for them to come here, and I hope that we can get them over. Right. But like, I think it's perfectly fine for them to be on Solana too. And I think it's great. And I think Solana's done a lot of stuff incredibly well. Right. And I think they've also been focused on user experience. Right. Yeah. I mean, we all remember the last cycle, $100 gas fees trading NFTs on OpenSea and shit like that. Right. And Solana being able to do things fast and easy, even simple things. Phantom is better. Right. It feels better. Right. Camino looks and feels better. Jupiter feels better. Right. Even like these little Chris, they look and feel that interact. So it's super important.
I gotta jump in. This is an analogy that I use so often, and I love that you brought this up. Think of companies in crypto as countries. Okay. If you are Chris and you built Plume and you have a lot of people coming to your country and your business is in that country, but you can go to Solana, maybe United States, maybe Britain, maybe Spain, maybe China, maybe wherever, a huge economy. Are you not going to open up an office in that country? You stupid, what? Why the hell wouldn't you do that? You have to grow. You have to. It makes no sense why so many teams are like, they have to come to our country. No. You keep your own country, you keep your HQ in your own country, and you go to their freaking country too. Why wouldn't you open up shop in their country? I do not get it. I love that you said that. I love that you
Without a
said
doubt.
that.
I think it's a great analogy. I think it's a great, it's the right way to think about it, right? Like, at the end of the day, if we want, I want people to migrate to our countries as well, right? But like it again, you gotta go to where the people are. It's something worth. I think if you're greedy long term, which is what we are, right? You
Yeah.
want it all, right?
Yeah.
Versus being greedy short term, which I think most people are, right? They just focus on
Yeah.
their own little thing. Let's grow Micronesia or whatever the hell it is, versus saying let's take our shit and put it everywhere, right? And get
Yeah.
everyone to experience what we have. And if they want to come here and get an even better version, God bless,
Yeah.
then we're all
Well
gonna.
said.
But if not, that's awesome.
Yeah, well said. Last question here. Plume 2026. I mean, you guys have some absolutely absurd partnerships. Apollo Global, Wisdom Tree, DigiFT, Securitize. I'm sure you got many more on the back burner on the
Yep.
pipeline 2026. Any Plume related news, Chris? Any RWA hot takes? You name it. Just anything to leave us with before we let you go today.
Yep. I think, look, the for Plume itself, the broad arc of it is this: in Q3 of last year, we launched the chain, right? And very quickly became the largest chain in the world for RWAs by holders, by asset type, by velocity, all these things, right? And then from there, right, we parlayed that, and because of the distribution that we attained from this, a lot of the major asset issuers around the world came to work with us, right? And that's where we got Apollo Global. We had Ernst and Young. We had they're building a privacy chain on top of us. We have Wisdom Tree, like you said, Securitize. DigiFT is bringing things like China Merchant Bank, $100 billion AUM asset manager in China. We have Taikong, which is a multi-$100 billion insurance company in China, bringing their assets to Plume as well. So because of those things, we had them come to us. And it was the same philosophy, which is at the end of the day, we want to be a bridge between these two worlds, right? And so by starting, right, with crypto natives and distribution, then we can have the institutions come to us versus us go to them, right?
Yeah.
And when they come to us, we have ball control, right? And we can begin to shape the world in a way that works for us versus just listening to them. So that's what we did in Q4, which means then now parlaying that into what are we going to do for the 2026 is now we take that in the other way, right? It always goes back and forth. We build distribution. We find that that allows us to get great assets. Then we take those assets and bring them back to distribution, right? And Solana was the key starting point for it. But we have many more integrations coming from a chain perspective, right? We've been working with, a couple different centralized exchanges as well to distribute our products there. We announced Gate recently. We have many more coming as well, right? As well as new applications. I think, one of the key stories in crypto right now is the neobank, the neofinance, those types of things, right? And, plugging RWAs into that is also a big part of it, right? As well as the Bitcoin community. And so that's kind of what we're doing now. It's this interplay between both. We're constantly finding new great assets, bringing them to people and bringing them to wherever they can go within crypto, and then use them to go back to find even better assets, and doing that cycle over. So that's what we're doing now. We've got a couple great and some very, very big announcements coming across those dimensions, distribution wise, right? Between chains and sexes and applications and Bitcoin or whatever, like those areas are the main areas that we're going forward. And so that's where we are. And I think, for folks who are still sort of figuring out, because I think a lot of people are still figuring out the RWA story, because while we hear about it a lot, the interaction points for the user are not quite as much as maybe other crypto native assets, is that it is changing in front of our eyes, right? The ability to, like you said, utilize vaults to one click, push a button and get access to all the best access in the world, right? And to have money spray into every pocket of the world today and find the best yields, right, is an incredibly powerful idea. And to move away from holding my net worth in Fartcoin to potentially maybe rebalancing a little bit into the S&P and a little bit of gold here and there, whatever, right, and still holding a broad array of them. That to me is the magic where we're going. It's not one or the other. It's let's have all of them at the same time. There's no reason why we shouldn't, right? In my opinion, I do think, many of these tokens, even the shitters, are blue chips, right? And that should be at the same quality as what's going on. And you can see how the world is becoming crypto, right? There's a post where that everything is crypto except crypto, right? But the world is becoming crypto. The minute we started aping into metals, of course it dumped, right? But, even the biggest assets in the world are trading like shitters now, right? Because that's what's happening in front of our eyes. Like the crypto markets have set the tune and tone for where the world is going, right? And so that's what is happening in front of us. And so it's just going to be an insane world where, again, there is no line between these things. You can be anyone, anywhere with any size, any size of bag, and you can get access to whatever you want and build a portfolio on top. And by making this open, the people building around it, whether you're going to curate a vault, right, and say, look, I think this combination of assets, BTC, Farcoin, and gold, is going to take you to the moon, and just package it up, and a lot of people interact with that. that on its own is going to open up. So it's not just the assets themselves, but the ecosystem around these assets and what you could do is going to just exponentiate. And so I would just say for anyone else out there, right, there's a lot more to RWAs than just T-bills. There's a lot more to RWAs than just gold, right? Or even just assets. It's the whole thing around it that is going to explode in an incredible way. And there are a million things we don't even know how they're going to pan out right now that are going to go nuclear. So I would just say there's literally infinite opportunity in this world right now. And so if you're not involved, you should be in some form or fashion. I'm around to chat on it anytime people want to talk about it, right? Just ping me or talk whatever, or to just read stuff, build whatever it is. You know, I think there's a tremendous amount to do across every dimension for what you're doing, which is educating and talking to people and getting people. I think that's a massive part of this. We need to get people around this thing, to people building, to people using these things, to also people just to sort of like, you know, bring the regulatory side. So all these things, there's a role for everybody here. So, you know, if you're not involved, you know, you should, and, you know, it'll pay off.
I love it. Before we let you go, Chris, where can our listeners find you personally, and of course, Plume online and on socials?
Yep. Look, I'm on Twitter all day and every day, unfortunately. I mean, it's been rotting my brain for a while, but I still love it. And so I'm always on Twitter, ping me whenever there. And second is, you know, Telegram and these places. Our team is also everywhere. And so, you know, you want to talk anywhere. I think Twitter happens to be the homepage for crypto, but, you know, Twitter and Telegram, that's probably a good place to find them.
As always, guys, we will link everything in the show notes. Huge shout out to Christian, CEO and co-founder of Plume. This was an absolute masterclass on everything RWA related and what we need in crypto. We have the ball right now, guys. Sometimes we gotta chuck it back to their court. It's gonna come back to ours, but let's keep moving and grooving and achieve our goals here. Huge shout out to Chris and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Jaggy, keep crushing it. And back to the listeners, thanks for tuning in. As always, keep on growing those bags and keep on staying happy, healthy, and wealthy. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Ciao.